Hello, my name is Trey Mozagemba. I am the Cloud Product Manager here at cPacket. And today I'm going to be doing a demonstration of deploying our cClear-V virtual appliance using the Azure Marketplace. Our cClear-V solution, of course, is our analytics and visualization layer. And it's also our management solution for cPacket appliances, which are in cloud and on-prem environments, also known as hybrid environments. We recently got our cClear-V listing published in the Azure Marketplace along with our other products, which we're very excited about. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into an overview of what we're going to be deploying today. So before I actually get into the demonstration itself, just a quick overview of what we'll actually be doing as part of this deployment. First, we'll be going and obtaining the image from the Azure Marketplace and deploying or configuring the appliance using the Azure console. We'll also be doing a walkthrough of the recommended configuration and deployment in the Azure console itself. We'll then be getting into deploying our cClear-V VM, giving it some time to boot up, and then we'll eventually log into the cPacket UI, and we'll cap that off by activating the product license and then associating a cStore-V virtual appliance to our cClear-V using the cClear-V user interface. So that's just a quick overview of what we'll be deploying. In terms of prerequisites for what is required, there are a few things that you'll need to do to prepare for this deployment. So you will need to have the access and privileges to go ahead and deploy a Linux-based VM in an Azure subscription. You'll also be creating and attaching a couple of additional data disks. And then we'll also be creating just a standard VNet network security group, associating an SSH key and more as part of the deployment. You can see in the screenshot there below just an example of some of the resources we'll be standing up in a net new Azure resource group as part of this deployment. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the actual deployment itself. So to get started with today's demo of our cClear-V deployment, I'm here on the Azure Marketplace homepage. You will want to make sure that you are signed into the appropriate Azure account with a subscription that you have the privileges and roles to deploy into. But assuming that you are signed in and everything's ready to go, what we're going to go ahead and do is jump to the search bar up top and just type in cPacket. And you'll see a few listings populate underneath. We'll go ahead and select this cClear-V in this drop-down menu here. And here we are on the listing homepage for our cClear-V product. If you are going to follow along on your own side, I will provide a link to this listing directly in the video description below. But once we're here, we'll go ahead and select this blue Get It Now button. And then you'll get this pop-up. This is just essentially agreeing to share some basic information with cPacket and Microsoft as part of subscribing to this listing. So we'll go ahead and hit the blue Continue button. Give this a moment here. Okay, so now that we are here, you can see that there's only one plan available to select, which is our cClear-V BYOL, bring your own license plan. So we'll go ahead and jump into the create a virtual machine workflow by hitting the blue create button here. And for those familiar with Azure, the create a virtual machine workflow is the standard, this is where you'll do all the configuration for the VM that we're about to deploy here. So this is where you can kind of follow along side by side if you are deploying on your own side as we go through this deployment here. As I mentioned earlier, we will be standing up a net new resource group, a new VNet, a new NSG, all of these things, SSH key, et cetera. So feel free to modify some of these as we go along, depending on your own scenario. But again, just for the simplicity of the demo, we'll go ahead and just create a bunch of net new resources that will be allocated to a new resource group, which we're standing up. So what I'm actually going to do is skip the resource group quickly and go to the virtual machine name. So we'll go ahead and just name this cClear-V Azure Marketplace for today's demo. And you can see when I leave that text box that above the resource group has actually auto-populated with that same name with underscore group appended to the end. So just a quick shortcut there to save some time. We'll go ahead and move forward with that as the VM name and then also the resource group name. In terms of the region, I'll just go ahead and leave this at East US2 because that's what's defaulted here. Again, feel free to adjust based on your own scenario. And as we scroll down here, we can skip the availability zone options. We can leave these as default. We'll just be deploying into one AZ today. And as I continue scrolling down here, that you will see that we do have the image pre-selected. And this should be the only image that you need for today's demo. Again, this should be pre-selected for the cClear-V BYOL listing. The next thing that we'll want to do is look at the machine size over here. So the standard DAS v5 is our default recommendation for cClear-V particularly those that are being deployed in more of a POC or an evaluation environment. There certainly is a bit of a sizing exercise that we can do for production scenarios where you may have mini C views or mini C stores potentially feeding a cClear-V device. But again, for today's demo, we'll just go ahead and select the standard D8S V5 machine type. And what I'm going to do is scroll to the bottom here now. And this is where we'll get into the actual SSH key configuration. Again, feel free to use your own key pair if you'd like, but we'll just go ahead and generate a new key pair with the default key pair name here. The only thing that you will want to make sure you do is the username will need to be Ubuntu to work seamlessly with our images. So that is a change. You will want to make sure that you update the username here to Ubuntu. But once all that looks good, we're going to go ahead and jump to the next section, which is the disk section. So we'll go ahead and hit the next button here. And here you'll see the configuration that's defaulted for the OS disk. So there's no need to change any of this. You can leave these all at the default values. But as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be creating and attaching a couple of additional disks, which are data disks for storage and retention. So we'll go ahead and hit the create and attach a new disk button here at the bottom left. And what we're going to do is change the size of the two disks that we're attaching to be 256 GIB. So I will select this here, and you can see that the performance tier is defaulted with P15, which is just fine. So once I select the 256, I will move forward. And the one thing that you will want to also do is ensure that you do select this checkbox here to delete the disk with the VM. This just makes it a little bit easier to manage resources as you're potentially spinning down and spinning up new instances. So we'll go ahead and select that checkbox here and hit the blue OK button. And we're going to go ahead and repeat that exact process to add the second disk. So again, we'll change the size to be 256 GIB, and we'll delete the disk with the VM. So let's select that checkbox. And again, OK. So once we've done that, we'll go ahead and proceed and move forward to the networking section by hitting this next button below. So as I mentioned, we're setting up a new VNet, a new subnet. We're actually creating a public IP as well that makes it a little bit easier to get into the machine. The only thing we'll need to change here on this networking page from the default is you will want to ensure that you do select this delete public IP and NIC when the VM is deleted here. Again, just in the spirit of making it a little bit easier to manage resources over time. So we'll select that checkbox. And now, if we scroll back up to the top, you can kind of see the workflow that we're jumping through here. We actually can skip the management, monitoring, and advanced sections, nothing to modify there. And we'll actually proceed directly to the tag section here up top. Um, every organization obviously has their own tag policies and things like that, but we tend to add an owner tag as a best practice. So I'll go ahead and select the owner tag with my email address there. And now we are ready to hit the review and create button. So as you might elicit from the name, this is where you can confirm all of the things that you just selected in this create a virtual machine workflow here. Again, I'm pretty confident in what I've selected here, but if you are doing it on your own side, just make sure that all of this looks good and lines up with what you had selected. Again, you can see two data disks, et cetera, are added here. But once we do that, we'll go ahead and when we feel comfortable, we'll hit the blue create button. I'll get a pop-up here. And what this is essentially doing is forcing me to download the private key before I can create the resource. So by selecting the blue button, you'll go ahead and see that a key is downloaded here above. And as part of that, now the resources are being created. So this typically takes about 1 to 2 minutes. So we'll go ahead and pause and pick back up when this deployment is completed. Okay, so now that we've given this a couple of minutes to complete, you can see that the deployment is complete as indicated by the green checkbox there. So what we'll go ahead and do is jump to the resource itself. So we'll hit the blue go to resource button. Our cClear-V instance can actually take up to 15 minutes to fully start all services and initialize. So what we're going to head and do is pause the video one more time here and give the machine time for all the containers and services to initialize correctly. So we'll pick back up here in just a moment. Okay, so now that we've given this cClear-V instance a few minutes to fully boot up, what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to navigate to the cClear-V user interface. We're going to log in. We're going to add a product license to fully activate all of the features. And then lastly, we'll associate a cStore-V instance just to show how the process works in terms of adding other cPacket devices in the user interface itself. And so again, the cClear-V in this case will be helping with management functionality, licensing functionality, and then also bringing in analytics from other cPacket appliances. So to navigate to the user interface, what we're going to go ahead and do now is grab the public IP address, which is over here. And so I'll copy this to my clipboard. And what you're going to want to make sure is make sure you open up a new tab, and we'll navigate to the login page. So by putting the IP in, we now hit the cClear-V landing page or login page. And so you're probably wondering now, what is the default password and the default username? So to grab the default password, what we're actually going to do is go back to our other tab, and you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen here, there's a JSON view button. And so we're going to use this to actually go ahead and grab the VM ID, which is the default password for this particular instance. So the VM ID is specific to this particular instance, which was provisioned in Azure. And you can see here, once I click the JSON view button on row 23, in this case, here is our VM ID. So we'll go ahead and grab this text here, and we'll go back to the other tab, which is our login page. So for the default username, you can just use cPacket, all lowercase. And for the password, we'll go ahead and add in our VM ID, which I just grabbed on the other tab. And we'll go ahead and log in. So now we've successfully logged into this device. This is the landing page here. And you'll see at the top, there's this yellow banner that is saying something along the lines of, you need to activate a license to enable all of the features for this product. What I want to go ahead and do is just show one thing quickly before we go ahead and add the license. So I'll go to the configure tab over here on the left-hand side, and we'll go to cStores. So what we're going to do in just a moment is actually add a cStore here, but just wanted to show that because this is an unlicensed device, you can see that you're not able to add a cStore until we do add a license for this product. So to add a license for the cClear-V, what we're going to go ahead and do is go to the administration tab over here on the left-hand side, and we'll go to the software tab. And if we scroll all the way down, this is where you can see there's license management in this pane here. This is where we'll go ahead and add the license. Our license activation for online scenarios is very, very easy. All you need to do is enter a license key, which is provided by cPacket. Again, this is all a bring your own license style licensing model. So you will need to ensure that you do have a license key before you get to this step. And you can do that by working with your cPacket representative. What we're going to do is hit the add license button here. I will go ahead and insert my license key, and we'll hit apply. So you can see on the right-hand side, this online license activated green panel shows up. And then you can now see that we have a license for all three of our cCloud products at this point. So we are now fully licensed. So the last step in this demonstration is, again, we're going to go ahead and actually add a cStore just to show how that process works. So again, we'll go back to the configure tab and go to cStores. And what we're going to go ahead and do is hit the add cStore button. So you can give this device any name. I'll just call this cStore Demo 1. The IP, you can use the public IP for your cStore-V appliance. You can obviously also use a private IP, but you'll need to have some other settings configured to do that. So I'll go ahead and add in the public IP here for the cStore-V instance in Azure, which I'm plugging up to. And for the username, we'll go ahead and put in cPacket. And for the password, again, this is the VM ID for the cStore-V instance as well. So very similar to what we did on the cClear instance here. So I'll go ahead and enter the VM ID of this particular cStore instance, which I'm adding here, and we'll verify. And you can see there's some other options here on the bottom. Because we're not activating a cView as part of this demonstration, we can go ahead and skip those steps. So what we're going to go ahead and do is hit save here. Excellent. So then I get this pop-up that also asks if we want to add a cView. Again, we'll hit cancel here, as we're not adding a cView as part of this demonstration. And this process typically takes 30 to 45 seconds. So we'll quickly pause, and then we can see the different metadata which is being brought in as part of this user interface. Okay, so now that we've paused here for just a moment, You can see that all of these various panels have populated with some data. You can see that there's actual traffic flowing through this cStor-V appliance, as indicated by the traffic rate here. And then also it's giving us some information about the storage retention period and also what version of software this cStor-V is running. We'll go ahead and hit the on button to turn metrics on just to ensure we're collecting all of the various metrics there as part of the cClear-V deployment. But at this point, that is the end of the demonstration. We've gone ahead and deployed a cClear-V instance. We've also been able to license and associate a cStore instance, which is also running in Azure as part of this demonstration. And I hope you found this helpful. We will have more demonstrations coming in the near future, and I thank you for tuning in today. Thanks so much and have a great one.